Hey there, back with another video. I'm Sushan. So, common question I get asked in a lot of those client meetings and a lot of other, formal settings. What is your UX design process in general, from scratch? If you're working on from scratch on any product, any digital design product. So, here's my answer to that once and for all. Again, it's a very repetitive question and a generic question. Still, it's very important to get these words out there and help people understand how digital product design is really formed from that problem statement that you have to the final MVP. What goes between in these two touch points? What happened during this process? What steps are involved? What people are involved? Technical tools that we utilize to make things happen? What sort of thought process is behind all of these things that we see being launched every single day? So this is the answer of all of these curiosity-driven questions. And if you still have some questions, I would love to have another session of such kind moving forward. And I'm aiming to do more periodic updates for you guys out there to sort of understand this industry better, not just for the technical people, but also for other industries, because it's a very connected world right now, and all of those industries really connected with each other somehow. And engineering teams are connected with the design teams, researchers are connected with the designers, designer are connected with the engineers. So all of those peoples, all of those roles are connected to each other. They're in some ways dependent on each other, basically. That's why it's critical to be able to understand other job roles, processes better, to be able to perform your job better. It's very important, especially in this age where AI is taking over. AI is just playing a very integral role in sort of every possible job role that you see out there. So, in any digital product, the process starts from understanding the customer needs. So let's say a business owner come up to you and say, hey, we are trying to do this because of these problems. Sometimes they have that understanding, and mostly they have just a clear idea of a product, certain different expectations they have from this product. And they expect that this product will improve their business as a whole in some ways or multiple different ways. Let's say a business owner of a bus company come up to you. Their motivation could be extrinsic or intrinsic. They might be extrinsic, as in they might be impressed with their competitor's product, and he sees and he notices their business is booming because of this particular digital product that they have. This is an extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic could be he might be having an existing product. It might be a similar digital product or a traditional business process involved that is not doing the job very well, and he wants to improve that. This could be the intrinsic thing, and he thinks by implementing some sort of digital product, sort of digital process, he would be able to improve these things. He would be able to help people book tickets better, faster, easier, and in much more cheaper way. And in return, I'll get more bookings, I will get more revenue, and my business will shoot. And overall, it will be a win-win for me. This is the intrinsic part. So a business owner comes up to you and says, hey, we want to improve our talking process. So let's start the design process. Let's discuss how things really work from start till finish. So everything starts from a business problem, a user requirement, a problem statement, whatever you want to call it. It really starts from that first meeting that explains the problem statement. That could be the business owner or their point of contact, right? Anyone else from the team who reaches out to us with their business goal, with a pain point, with the problem statement. Let's say they are a business owner of a bus company. They want to improve upon their booking process. That could be their problem statement, pain point, and a business goal. They want to make the process more easier so that people would make booking easier, easily, and then be able to, and then the goal would be to further improve their revenues, right? It could be a simple little scenario that I think of right now. So what we try to do is we try to understand their expectations in detail. So we try to understand their expectations better by talking to them. We try to understand their expectations better. If they have any specific details about their current process, current product, they could tell us if they can. If not, we would ask them to give us all of that concrete material that they have, their existing apps, their existing website, existing process, snapshots, any way they could support our system, our design process. We ask them. Next step is to get more clarity in user pain points and user expectations. For this, we have to go to the real user. How do we find that? So let's say for the bus booking app, any person who travels is the targeted user, right? So we talk to that person in person or online, anywhere. We talk to them. We ask them, do you make bookings? Do you travel a lot? What is your process of booking a ticket? Let's say you're going to point A to point B. So what's the general process? Which app do you use? You go to ticket. You like to go to a ticket station. Why? And if you don't want to go to the ticket station, what app do you use and why do you prefer to use it? What's the pros and cons of each of these methods? They would share their experience, their understanding, their pain points of any of these. We take down those notes and we repeat this process with one or two different people, one or two to three different types of people to sort of understand and take input from multiple age groups, multiple types of people. That will really help us understand the user expectations better, their pain points better, and in general, we would be exposed to a lot of things that we might not, figure out. Might not. It's possible. So it's important to talk to real users all the time to understand their frustrations, their expectations, their motivations, and a lot of time their likes or dislikes. It really helps us do that. And we take notes during this entire process all the time. Moving forward, what we do is what I would do in this case is I define those user personas. I try to understand those users better and note down those basic details about those users that I've interviewed previously. So yeah, as I mentioned before, so the next step would be to note down all of those pain points, all of the research findings that we did previously by talking to the stakeholders, by talking to the users, by talking basically to the right people, to the right stakeholders. Okay. And then now the next step for us as designer, product designer, researcher would be to note down all of that stuff and sort of ideate in the next phase. And in this step, normally what we do is do some sketching. That's a very interesting part, I would say. So what happens there is scribbles, notes, everything into visual element. Starts with the very basic outline first about the users. Who are they? What do they do? What are their pain points? What they like and dislike about certain products, and what they expect from us in general. Any app, any similar app, what they expect it to do for them. That's key part. And the next step would be to have a very brief user journey to visually explain how the user moves from one touch point to the another and how the app behaves in between in response to user touch points and user interactions. That really help us visualize all of those processes. And moving forward, it really, by this point, we have a much more clear picture of what the problem is, what the expectations are, and what we want to do. So we try to visualize those things on paper. Very rough way to do it, but in a low fidelity manner. So it would be much more easier to put your thoughts out on the paper rather on a digital platform. So that's what I prefer, and most people also do this, that they put down their ideas. So notes, obviously, first they did that, and then moving forward, they would do the wireframe. We sketch them down onto the paper and see how they look. It could be simple little block diagram. It could be a simple little user journey map. It could be a simple little user flow. I prefer a very simple method that is called user flow. I try to visualize the entire user flow, how they will interact with the app, and what sort of steps they will be going through to sort of book the tickets. The entire picture is in front of me right now. And from that point on, I have a clear picture, so I could make the real thing in the next phase before doing. And before doing that, I also want to know that what are the core features that we need, right? We were talking about the bus booking app, right? Core feature would be to able to search the available ticket. Search feature is very important. Listing the right information in the right format, in the right layout that is easy, that is responsive on multiple form factors. That is important. That is core thing. A good payment method, possibly all possible payment methods should be there. Users should be able to filter through those search results very easily. They should be able to check out very easily. So all of those basic touch points in the user journey map and the user flow, that should be very very crystal clear, very simple to use, very easy to adopt for all age groups. So my priority here would be to focus on the main goals, the main steps of the process, main touch points, main decision making points between the entire process of a bus ticket book. So after figuring out those core functional requirements, I'm much more clear-headed right now after all of the previous steps that we did previously. Research, talking to the right people, planning out, brainstorming, research, competitor analysis, everything. Now, based on those, user flows and those key functional requirements, I will plan out my screens, like what sort of screens I need. I need a login screen. I need a listing screen. I need a home page. I need a checkout screen, sort of as much as I can think of right now in each module. I will list them down and then start making wireframes. If it has to be very rough, it has to be very quick, but still it has to make sense when I do the visual stuff down the line. So after those wireframes could be on paper because it can be very quick, but if your job, if your project requires, you can do it digitally as well. That I'll do in the next step. So once you have a rough sketches of all of those screens, we go on to do the visual stuff. Any digital platform that you like. I primarily use Figma. It is the industry standard right now. I use it. I prefer it right now. Previously, we were using a lot of different tools. So the next step would be, what I would do is digitize all of those wireframes and try to implement that brand guidelines that I have, if the client provided us that. I would try to use that as much as I can. And if I don't have that, I'll have to create that sort of the basic brand guidelines. It could be a color palette, it could be a simple little typography skill that I have. And yeah, that's a very basic building block of any brand guideline. Then moving forward, icons and other visual assets and in any brand guidelines there are. I'll try to create that as quickly as I can. Always each step of this entire design process in itself a detailed process. It takes a lot of the time. It takes a lot of time. So it's our job to make sure we spend a right amount of time on each step so that we don't get carried away from the main goal, the main design direction. So yeah, we've reached the brand guideline step. We are trying to create brand assets. Very basic thing. We implement that in those screens that we have created before in terms of very low fidelity wireframe. We try to improve that. We try to make it presentable visually. That's another step done. All right. And obviously, after each of these steps, internally, we evaluate that, we test that internally, and we get it checked once they're ready to visually present we check with our stakeholders and with the client as well sometimes to see if we're moving in the right direction, if they approve of all of this that we've done. Is this what they were expecting us to do? If there are any changes they want to do, they can reach us out for that. So that's how it really is. And yeah, the next step is to just link those screens, sort of prototype them if we need to get them tested. If we want it to be interactive, we can make it interactive by linking the right touch points, right screens, and make the flow interactive and to be able to present to the stakeholders and the users as well. So that's another interesting part, my favorite part. I love it. I love doing that all the time. But obviously, it takes a lot of time and a lot of organizational efforts and tools as well. So yeah, it really basically is a mock version of the actual product. It brings the idea much more clear and closer to the end product. Right. And moving forward, we test it internally, externally, and with the stakeholders as well, and see if we need to change anything, if there are any flaws in between. So we fix that. And obviously, the next step is to hand it over to the design developers, so they're basically able to build it, and we help them in their process as well by sharing them all those design assets, documentation, and guidelines, so they are able to, so they can be able to put up a great show end of the day and make a good MVP, good product for the users to test and rely on every single day. And then after the launch, the work isn't done. We try to evaluate the performance of our applications and see and test where it is failing, if it is failing in some ways, what sort of problems they are having, the users, the stakeholders, if they're having, and if there's. So yeah, that's the entire process. Very briefly, I've tried to summarize it in front of you so that you understand it. No matter which industry, which job role you are from, really, this is in a nutshell. This is how a design process looks like. And there are many things that takes time in this process. So each step of the way could take a lot of time, days and weeks sometime. But again, your priority should be to come up with the most functional thing as quickly as possible. That's my job as a designer, to make sure it happens. So that's that. I'll try to come up with more creative topics, more relevant questions and their answers in the next videos. Until then, bye bye. We'll continue with more, and until then, see you. Bye bye. Arigatou gozaimasu. Dankeschön. See you. Bis bald.